Chapter 1. The Weight of the Galaxy. The stars had always seemed to mock Tala. As a child growing up in the sprawling highlands of Varela, a world nestled on the fringes of the Ganithic Nebula, she had often sat under the vast indigo sky, her head tilted back as the cold twinkle of distant suns glittered overhead like shattered glass strewn across an endless canvas. Those stars were silent witnesses to her journey, a journey marked by the crushing weight of expectations, prejudices, and the ever-looming shadow of rejection. In the eyes of the galaxy, Tala was a mistake, a biological anomaly that dared to challenge the tightly controlled image of what a partner should be. Her size, a magnificent and powerful gift, had become the very barrier that barred her from finding love, respect, and her place in the grand cosmic order. From the moment she reached maturity, Tala had presented herself at the renowned Galactic Alliance's selection chambers, a colossal structure of polished chromasteel and crystalline light, where hopefuls came to be paired in unions that would shape futures, forge alliances between worlds, and sometimes tip the delicate balance of power across star systems. The chambers were a place of awe and terror alike, where the brightest minds, the most elegant diplomats, and the wealthiest elites convened, seeking partners who would complement their status, their ambitions, and their image. But for Tala, these chambers were a crucible that burned away hope piece by piece. 17 times she had stood before the council's emissaries and the legion of suitors who paraded through in their sleek, form-fitting suits, their calculated smiles, and their polite but dismissive words. Each time, her size was cited not as a strength, but as a flaw, an inconvenience, a danger to the fragile egos and fragile alliances that the galaxy depended on. Her height alone was staggering. At 8 feet and 7 inches, Tala towered over nearly everyone she encountered. Her limbs were thick with muscle, honed from years of climbing the jagged cliffs and hunting in the dense wilds of her homeworld. Her skin bore the rich bronze hues of Varelian heritage, kissed by twin suns, and etched with swirling tribal tattoos that told stories of ancient heroes and cosmic legends. Her eyes, emerald orbs glowing faintly with bioluminescent veins, held a fierce intelligence and a quiet sorrow, reflecting the loneliness that had become her constant companion. The council's suits whispered behind closed doors that she intimidated potential mates, that she would overshadow any man foolish enough to accept her. They feared her strength, her independence, her unyielding spirit. And so, she was passed over, time after time. Despite the crushing weight of societal rejection, Tala's spirit did not falter. She carried herself with a regal bearing, tempered by humility and a deep-seated yearning to prove that size was not a curse, but a blessing. The Varelian elders had taught her that strength was sacred, that her frame was the vessel through which she could protect, nurture, and inspire. Yet the galaxy was not kind to those who defied its narrow ideals. It valued symmetry, balance, and the illusion of harmony above all else. Tala was an outlier in a universe obsessed with conformity. Every rejection was a jagged shard piercing her heart, yet she refused to let despair claim her. Instead, she channeled her frustration into honing her skills not just in combat or survival, but in diplomacy, art, and philosophy. She learned to navigate the labyrinthine politics of the Galactic Alliance, to speak with a voice that commanded respect and challenged prejudice. Her reputation began to grow not as a potential partner, but as a force of nature. Whispers spread through the corridors of power about the towering Varelian who refused to bow, who could silence a room with a single glance, whose presence alone shifted the atmosphere like a planet's gravitational pull. Many admired her from afar, afraid to approach, yet captivated by the promise she held, a promise that something greater than the narrow confines of physical form could define worth. But admiration was not enough. Tala longed for a partner who would see beyond the surface, who would recognize the beauty in her magnitude, the depth in her soul. On the eve of what would be her 18th presentation, a number that felt both a burden and a beacon, Tala prepared herself in the solitude of her quarters aboard the starship Sovereign Dawn. The ship itself was a marvel, a relic from an era when humanity and the Varelians had stood united against cosmic threats, now refitted with the latest technology and serving as her sanctuary. The room was sparsely decorated, illuminated by the soft glow of nebula lamps that cast ethereal patterns on the walls. She ran her fingers over the smooth surface of a family heirloom, a carved pendant made from Verelian crystal, symbolizing resilience and hope. The memories of every rejection flashed before her eyes. But so did the lessons learned, the battles fought within and without, the quiet moments of self-love and affirmation. She dressed in ceremonial robes crafted from rare fabrics that shimmered with subtle starfire threads, designed not to hide her size, but to celebrate it. Each fold and drape accentuated her power, her grace, and the promise of a future yet unwritten. As she gazed into the mirror, Tala saw not just the reflections of scars and muscles, but the outline of a queen waiting to rise. The galaxy had judged her, dismissed her, and confined her to the margins, but she was ready to defy every expectation. Meanwhile, far from the gleaming halls of the Galactic Alliance, a man named Kale prepared for the same day. Unlike the polished elites, Kale was a mechanic and pilot, a man of humble origins who had spent his life among the stars, fixing broken ships and navigating treacherous asteroid fields. His reputation was one of reliability and quiet courage, but not grandeur. Yet Kale carried a different kind of strength, the kind born of empathy, vision, and an unshakable belief in the impossible. Word of Tala's persistence had reached even the dusty docks of the Outer Rim, where Kale worked tirelessly to keep humanity's presence alive in the forgotten corners of space. Kale was different from the 17 men who had rejected Tala before. He did not see her size as a flaw, but as a testament to her survival, her resilience. In a universe where everyone sought perfection in narrow definitions, Kale believed in the beauty of imperfection and the power of authenticity. When Tala's name was announced for the 18th presentation, he was among the few who stepped forward without hesitation. His eyes met hers not with calculation or fear, but with recognition, a silent promise that she was seen, truly seen, for the first time. That day would mark the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Tala, but for the entire galaxy. A story where the rejected became revered, where the too big found the perfect fit, and where a queen rose not in spite of her size, but because of it. The weight of the galaxy had pressed down on Tala for too long. Now, it was time to lift her into the stars and crown her for what she truly was, a force to be reckoned with, a beacon of hope, and the rightful queen of a new era. The morning light that seeped through the reinforced transparent alloy windows of the Sovereign Dawn was muted, filtered through the violet-hued atmosphere of Varela's upper atmosphere. It gave everything an ethereal glow, as if the entire world itself was suspended in a dream, fragile and beautiful. Tala stood silently by the viewport, the massive curvature of her homeworld stretching beneath her rugged mountain ranges capped with iridescent frost, dense emerald forests that breathed life into the air, and the sprawling crystalline cities that sparkled like jewels across the valleys below. The galaxy had become an expanse of rejection and cold judgment, but Varela was her true anchor, a world where size was not a curse but a symbol of honor. Here, the elders revered the giants of the past who protected the tribes and kept the peace. Yet even that reverence couldn't shield her from the alien gaze beyond her planet's skies. She flexed her hands, feeling the familiar swell of power in her broad shoulders and thick arms, the strength of a warrior molded by generations of survival and love. Yet this power, this grandeur, was the very thing the galaxy's elite found unmanageable. 17 times, the Council's delegations had scrutinized her with clinical detachment, their meticulously calibrated social filters rejecting her before she even had the chance to speak. Their diplomatic language was polite but devastating. Your presence overshadows, a mismatch for our ideals, too overwhelming for delicate alliances. The words echoed in her mind like a relentless drumbeat, each echo chipping away at the fortress of her hope. But Tala was not born of surrender. The stories her grandmother had told her spoke of giants who had moved stars and tamed worlds with their might and will. You carry their blood, the old woman had said, her cracked voice laced with reverence. The galaxy fears what it does not understand. One day, they will see you as you truly are. Those stories had been her shield in lonely nights and her beacon in moments of doubt. That day had arrived, or so she hoped. The corridors of the Sovereign Dawn hummed with the pulse of ancient machinery fused with cutting-edge technology. The ship was an artifact of a forgotten alliance, a relic designed in a time when humans and Varelians fought side by side against existential threats. The ship's AI, a soft-voiced entity named Leora, had become more than just a guide. She was a companion who understood the delicate balance of power and emotion in her captain. Tala's preparations were meticulous. Her ceremonial robes, spun from starlight-infused silks, cascaded down her frame in waves of silver and midnight blue, catching the light with every movement. Unlike the narrow tailoring favored by most, her attire embraced her size, highlighting the fluidity of her movements rather than trying to constrain them. It was a statement she was not apologizing for who she was. As she ran through mental rehearsals of the coming proceedings, her thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of a communicator. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a slender figure bathed in the cold blue glow of the Galactic Alliance's selection chamber. It was her liaison, a neutral party tasked with coordinating the logistics of the event, but even that formal relationship carried undertones of scrutiny. Tala, you are scheduled to present yourself at the Galactic Council within the next hour. The venue awaits your arrival. Please remember the gravity of this occasion, the liaison intoned, eyes flickering with what could have been sympathy or mere professionalism. Tala's reply was calm but firm. I understand. I will arrive prepared. The link severed. The quiet hum of the ship felt heavier now, as if the air itself thickened with anticipation. She wasn't just walking into another round of evaluation. This time felt different. Something in the cosmos had shifted, a subtle, almost imperceptible change that stirred the depths of her being. She allowed herself a moment to breathe, centering her thoughts on the core truths that had sustained her. Strength is beauty, power is grace, and above all, the courage to be oneself is the most formidable weapon of all. Across the vast expanse of space, on a less glamorous station orbiting a burnt-out star in the outer rim, Kale adjusted the settings on a cumbersome plasma welder. His hands were rough, scarred from years of mechanical labor, but they moved with practiced precision. The grime of the workshop was a second skin, and the flicker of holographic schematics illuminated his face in a ghostly dance of shadows and light. Kale was not a man of politics or diplomacy. He had never sought to climb the ladder of social hierarchy or sway the council's fickle opinions. His battles were fought in engine rooms and scrapyards, in the silent hum of revitalized machinery and the cold calculus of mechanical survival. Yet, somehow, the stories of Tala had found their way to him. Rumors whispered through the channels he frequented, stories of a towering Varelian woman who had defied every expectation, rejected by elites who feared what she represented. What captivated Kale was not just her size, but the unyielding spirit behind it. A spirit that resonated with his own struggle against marginalization. In a universe that prized perfection and conformity, Tala was a storm breaking through the calm, a force refusing to be tamed. When the invitation arrived, a formal summons to the selection chamber, Kale did not hesitate. Unlike the 17 men before him, he did not see a figure to be judged but a soul to be recognized. He saw the raw potential, the untamed power of a queen waiting for her crown. His ship, the Nebula Runner, was a modest freighter compared to the gleaming vessels that filled the council's hangars. But Kale cared little for appearances. His focus was on authenticity, on seeing Tala for who she truly was. He had no illusions about the spectacle awaiting them, the grand halls where the galaxy's finest paraded their refined facades, where alliances were brokered like commodities, and where Tala's size had been a barrier rather than a bridge. But Kale was ready to break through that facade. Back aboard the Sovereign Dawn, Tala's arrival at the Galactic Council was met with the usual mixture of awe and thinly veiled disdain. Delegates whispered behind their hands, eyes darting between her and the more traditionally acceptable candidates. The chamber itself was a cathedral of light and steel, towering arches that reached toward the simulated sky above, where stars twinkled in programmed perfection. The air was thick with tension, charged with the unspoken rules that governed every interaction. 17 times, she had stood here, felt the piercing gazes and heard the polite refusals that disguised rejection. But today, she walked with a different kind of certainty. Her footsteps echoed through the hall, a rhythmic drumbeat that seemed to command attention rather than invite dismissal. The council's chairwoman, a tall, slender figure adorned with ceremonial robes that glittered with the insignias of countless worlds, rose to acknowledge Tala's presence. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the Varelian woman as if weighing every molecule. "Tala of Varela," the chairwoman began, voice resonant and authoritative, "you stand before us once again. What have you to offer that you have not shown before?" Tala's reply was steady, infused with the quiet power that came from unshakable self-belief. "I offer my strength, my loyalty, and my vision. The galaxy has judged me by my size, but I stand here to prove that greatness cannot be measured by narrow standards. I am not a burden, but a force for change, a queen who will not be confined." The chamber murmured with mixed reactions. Some delegates exchanged uneasy glances, while others seemed intrigued by her boldness. But it was the arrival of Kale that shifted the atmosphere irrevocably. As he stepped into the chamber, his presence was understated but undeniable, a man who carried neither the grandeur nor the pretense of the council's elite, yet whose gaze held something deeper than the practiced diplomacy surrounding them. When his eyes met Tala's, the room seemed to still. In that instant, all the rejection, all the loneliness, all the battles waged in silence, found their counterpoint. Kale saw Tala not as an obstacle, but as the perfect counterpart to his own imperfect journey. The 17 men who had turned her away had measured her with fear and limitation. Kale measured her with understanding and awe. And as he approached, he said words that echoed beyond the chamber, beyond the stars themselves. "You're perfect." Chapter 2. The Unlikely Alliance. The moment Kale's words reverberated through the grand chamber, a charged silence settled like a heavy fog over the assembly. "You're perfect." Simple, direct, unyielding in its conviction. For years, Tala had been weighed and found wanting by standards that never truly accounted for her worth. Yet here was a man who shattered that paradigm in a single breath. His declaration was more than a phrase, it was a challenge to the very fabric of the Galactic Alliance's dogma, a spark that threatened to ignite an upheaval in the centuries-old order. Delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, faces masked in expressions of polite disbelief or cautious curiosity. Some whispered fervently, others openly scoffed, but beneath their guarded facades, the seeds of change had been sown. For Tala, those words from Kale stirred something deep within, an ember of hope that roared to life into an unbreakable flame. She met his gaze steadily, feeling for the first time a genuine connection, a recognition that transcended societal boundaries and defied expectations. Kale was unlike any suitor she had faced before. He lacked the polished veneer of nobility and the intricate diplomatic training of the council's favored candidates. Instead, he bore the rough edges of a mechanic, a pilot, a man forged in the fires of hardship and perseverance. His hands, calloused and worn, spoke of countless battles with machines and stars, of resilience in the face of an indifferent universe. His presence was a balm against the loneliness Tala had endured, proof that someone saw her not as a burden to be managed, but as a partner to be revered. The council chairwoman's piercing eyes narrowed as she regarded this unexpected pairing. "Kale of the Outer Rim," she said, voice sharp like a blade. "Your endorsement is unorthodox. What is it you see in Tala that has eluded so many before you?" Kale's reply was steady, unwavering. "I see a queen not despite her size, but because of it." Tala embodies strength, wisdom, and courage. She carries the legacy of her people in every step. The galaxy has been blind to her true value, but I will not be. A ripple of murmurs swept through the chamber. Some delegates exchanged glances laden with skepticism, others with grudging respect. The very idea that a man from the fringes would stand so resolutely in defense of a candidate previously dismissed 17 times challenged the elitism that had long dictated their choices. It threatened to dismantle the carefully curated image of what a leader and partner should be. Yet beneath the veneer of decorum, a current of unrest flowed, a desire for change, a yearning for authenticity in a universe rife with artifice. Tala stepped forward, her voice ringing clear and commanding, carrying the weight of her journey and the promise of what could be. "The galaxy has measured me by scales that cannot grasp the depth of my spirit or the breadth of my vision. For too long, I have been judged by my size rather than my substance. I offer not just my strength, but my unwavering loyalty and my dedication to a future where all are valued for their true selves." Her words echoed through the chamber like the tolling of a great bell, awakening dormant aspirations and igniting fierce debates. Outside the chamber, across star systems and planetary colonies, news of this unprecedented moment spread like wildfire. Communications networks buzzed with speculation, analysis, and passionate discourse. In taverns on mining outposts and halls of power on glittering capitals, people debated the implications of Tala's candidacy and Kale's bold support. Was this the dawn of a new era, or a reckless upheaval? Amidst the storm of politics and prejudice, Tala and Kale found solace in one another's presence. In the quiet moments away from the spotlight, they shared stories of their pasts, the hardships that shaped them, the dreams that sustained them. Tala spoke of her childhood in Varella's rugged highlands, of the legends her grandmother had passed down, and of the loneliness that had often accompanied her imposing stature. Kale recounted his years navigating the treacherous asteroid belts of the Outer Rim, fixing broken ships, and defying the odds to keep humanity's spirit alive in forgotten corners of space. Their bond deepened beyond mere alliance. It became a partnership forged in mutual respect and understanding. Where Tala embodied raw, unyielding power tempered by wisdom, Kale brought grounded pragmatism and a fierce belief in redemption and second chances. Together, they formed a balance of strength and humility, vision and practicality. It was a union that unsettled the council but inspired those longing for change. The council's deliberations were intense and protracted. Delegates weighed the risks of embracing a candidate who defied every norm against the potential rewards of a leader who could unite disparate factions and breathe new life into a stagnant political order. Behind closed doors, whispers of rebellion and reform swirled. Traditionalists clung to the familiar, fearing that Tala's ascent would unravel the fragile peace they had maintained. Progressives saw in her the embodiment of a future where diversity was strength, where authenticity was power. Meanwhile, Tala and Kale prepared for the final trial, a public vote among the galaxy's representatives that would determine her fate. This trial was more than a political formality. It was a crucible designed to test not just her eligibility, but the galaxy's readiness to embrace change. The outcome would ripple across star systems, shaping alliances, economies, and the very fabric of interstellar society. As the day of the vote approached, tension gripped the capital. Media outlets broadcast debates and interviews, painting Tala as either a revolutionary beacon or a dangerous anomaly. Public forums erupted with passionate voices, some rallying to her cause, others condemning what they saw as a threat to tradition. The galaxy watched, waiting to see if the weight of prejudice would be lifted or if Tala would be cast aside once more. In the quiet before the storm, Tala and Kale stood together beneath the swirling nebula visible through the chamber's panoramic windows. The stars stretched infinitely, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the smallness of individual struggles within it. Yet in that infinite expanse, they found strength in each other and in the belief that one person's courage could indeed change the course of history. Tala's voice broke the silence. 17 rejections taught me resilience. 18 will be different because this time, I am not alone. Kale smiled, the warmth in his eyes reflecting the nebula's glow. Together, we'll show the galaxy that greatness comes in many forms, and that sometimes, the most unexpected alliances are the strongest. As the chamber prepared for the vote, the galaxy held its breath. The future teetered on the edge of a knife, poised between the shackles of conformity and the promise of a new dawn. Tala, the woman once rejected for being too big, stood ready to claim her crown not just as a queen of Varela, but as a queen for all who had been overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed. And Kale, the man who saw her for who she truly was, would be by her side every step of the way. In that moment, the galaxy glimpsed a future unbound by fear, a future where the weight of the galaxy no longer crushed, but lifted those who dared to rise. The vote loomed like a storm on the horizon, a titanic clash not merely of politics, but of ideology and perception. Across the countless systems tethered together in the grand web of the Galactic Alliance, representatives wrestled with their own convictions and the demands of their constituencies. Tala's candidacy had fractured opinion as sharply as a comet tearing through the void. Some hailed her as a symbol of overdue progress, an embodiment of strength and authenticity, while others dismissed her as an aberration that threatened the delicate equilibrium painstakingly maintained for generations. In the corridors of power, alliances shifted with every whispered conversation, every closed-door meeting, each faction calculating whether to embrace change or cling to tradition. Amid this maelstrom, Tala remained resolute. Her towering form, once seen as a liability, had become a living testament to resilience and unyielding spirit. She was more than the sum of her parts. She was a storm rising against the suffocating skies of conformity, a beacon for those who had been told they did not fit the mold. Yet, beneath her steely exterior, the weight of expectation pressed down on her, a burden magnified by every glance, every whispered judgment. 17 rejections had left scars deeper than flesh, wounds etched into the very core of her being. But now, with Kale at her side, she faced the ultimate trial, not just to claim a title, but to redefine the meaning of leadership itself. Kale, for his part, carried the quiet strength of a man who had spent years navigating the margins of the galaxy, fighting to keep alive the spirit of humanity's forgotten outposts. His hands, scarred by engines and welding torches, were steady as ever, but inside, the stakes had never felt higher. Supporting Tala was no longer just a matter of personal conviction. It was a mission to shatter the barriers that had long confined countless beings to invisibility and exclusion. He saw in her not only a partner, but a revolution, a chance to forge a future where size, strength, and difference were celebrated rather than feared. The day of the vote dawned with an unsettling stillness. The Galactic Council's chamber, a majestic edifice suspended in orbit around the vibrant world of Solara Prime, was bathed in the cold light of distant suns. Delegates arrived in vessels ranging from sleek diplomatic cruisers to aged transports patched together with desperate ingenuity. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, electric with unspoken fears and hopes. Inside the chamber, banners fluttered, holographic projections danced, and the hum of whispered strategies filled every corner. Tala's massive silhouette cut through the crowd like a titan among mortals, her presence commanding yet dignified. Kale walked beside her, a grounding force amid the storm. As proceedings commenced, the council chairwoman took the dais, her voice resonant and grave. She outlined the gravity of the vote, a decision not only about Tala's future, but the future of the alliance itself. Arguments for and against her candidacy were laid bare, speeches weaving between tradition and transformation. Traditionalists spoke of stability, order, and the dangers of upheaval. They painted Tala as an unpredictable force, a threat to the delicate balance of interstellar politics. Progressives countered with impassioned pleas for inclusivity, for recognizing the myriad forms strength could take. They called for a leader who embodied courage and vision beyond mere appearance. Tala listened, her emerald eyes steady and unwavering. She heard the veiled fears disguised as rhetoric, the cautious hope laced with skepticism. When her moment came to address the assembly, she stepped forward with a grace that belied her formidable stature. Her voice rang out, clear and commanding, weaving a narrative not of defiance but of unity. The galaxy has long sought leaders who fit a narrow vision, who conform to expectations that limit potential and silence difference, she declared, her words rippling through the hall like a rising tide. I stand before you not as an anomaly to be feared, but as a testament to the power of diversity and resilience. My size is not a barrier, but a bridge, a connection to all those who have been dismissed for their uniqueness. I offer strength born from struggle, wisdom forged in solitude, and a heart unafraid to lead with compassion. Let us forge a future where every being's worth is measured not by conformity, but by courage, integrity, and the will to unite. Her speech ignited a chorus of reactions, applause mingled with murmurs of dissent. Yet beneath the surface, a palpable shift stirred. The galaxy, vast and varied, was awakening to the possibility that leadership could transcend old paradigms. Kale's steady gaze met hers, conveying unwavering support and shared purpose. When the votes were finally tallied, the chamber held its collective breath. The announcement echoed through the vast halls. Tala had been chosen as the new queen of the Galactic Alliance. Cheers erupted from progressive factions, while traditionalists grappled with the reality of a changed order. Tala, once rejected 17 times for being too big, had ascended not despite her size, but because of it. Her reign would be a beacon for the marginalized and a challenge to the status quo. As she accepted her crown, an intricate circlet woven from the rarest metals and stones of her homeworld, Tala felt the weight of the galaxy shift. This was more than a personal victory. It was a triumph for all who dared to defy limits and claim their rightful place among the stars. With Kale by her side, she looked toward a future bright with promise and possibility, ready to lead a galaxy transformed by courage, acceptance, and the unbreakable strength of the human spirit. Chapter 3. Forging a New Dawn. The coronation was not merely a ceremony, it was the fulcrum upon which the fate of the galaxy pivoted. In the heart of the Galactic Alliance's capital, nestled within the gleaming spires of Solara Prime's grand citadel, the halls thrummed with the collective breath of thousands who bore witness to history in the making. Tala, the towering Varelian woman whose name had once been met with cold dismissal and cruel doubt, now stood adorned in the resplendent regalia of a queen. Her massive frame was draped in robes spun from the rarest silks harvested from the floating gardens of Illyria, a blend of midnight blues and starfire gold that shimmered with every movement. Echoing the vast cosmos she was destined to rule. Her emerald eyes, fierce and radiant, scanned the sea of faces before her delegates, ambassadors, and citizens from countless worlds, each carrying their own hopes, fears, and expectations. Yet beneath the glittering veneer of triumph lay a quiet tension, the unmistakable hum of challenges yet to come. Tala's ascension was unprecedented. It had shattered the rigid norms that had governed galactic politics for centuries. The alliances she would forge, the enemies she would face, and the reforms she would champion were all unknown variables in a delicate equation that balanced on the razor's edge between unity and chaos. The whispers that once doubted her strength now morphed into cautious admiration, but lurking shadows of resistance remained, waiting for any sign of weakness to exploit. Kale stood steadfast by her side, a steady anchor amid the swirling currents of ceremony and intrigue. His presence, humble yet commanding, was a testament to the unlikely partnership that had changed the course of history. Unlike the traditional courtiers draped in elaborate finery and laden with titles, Kale's practical attire and weathered hands spoke of a lifetime spent among stars and steel rather than gilded halls. Yet his quiet confidence and unwavering loyalty lent Tala strength beyond measure. Together, they embodied a union not merely of hearts, but of ideals, a promise that the future would be shaped by authenticity, courage, and unbreakable resolve. As the ancient hymns echoed through the vaulted chambers and the sacred rites were performed by the council's high priestess, Tala felt the weight of the ceremonial crown settle upon her brow. It was more than a symbol of authority. It was a mantle of responsibility, a binding oath to serve not only her people but the entirety of the Galactic Alliance. Her thoughts drifted to the countless souls who had stood beside her through rejection and solitude, those who saw in her a reflection of their own struggles and dreams. This crown was theirs as much as it was hers. But the path forward was fraught with complexity. The galaxy was a mosaic of cultures, languages, and beliefs, many of which had long histories of conflict and mistrust. The economic disparities between prosperous core worlds and resource-strapped frontier colonies bred resentment. Technological advances surged unevenly, creating gaps not just in power, but in perspective. In the shadow of external threats, pirate factions, rogue states, and enigmatic alien forces lurking beyond known space remained a constant reminder that unity was not just ideal, but essential for survival. Tala's first decree as queen was one of unprecedented inclusivity and reform. She called for the formation of the Council of Equals, a new governing body designed to give voice to marginalized worlds and underrepresented species. This radical restructuring challenged centuries of entrenched power, drawing both applause and ire. She championed initiatives to bridge technological divides, promote cultural exchange, and foster economic collaboration, recognizing that the strength of the alliance lay not in uniformity, but in diversity. Her vision was of a galaxy where every being, regardless of size, origin, or station, could thrive and contribute to the collective future. Kale was appointed Chief Ambassador for Outer Rim Affairs, a role that leveraged his deep understanding of frontier challenges and his genuine connections with remote communities. His pragmatic approach to diplomacy complemented Tala's visionary leadership, enabling them to tackle problems with a balance of idealism and realism. Together, they embarked on a diplomatic tour spanning star systems and space stations, visiting worlds where hope had dwindled and rebuilding bridges frayed by neglect and suspicion. The journey was arduous and illuminating. On the mining colony of Dravix, Tala witnessed firsthand the harsh conditions endured by laborers eking out a living beneath alien skies. She met with community leaders and workers alike, listening to their grievances and pledging support for improved rights and resources. Kale's unassuming presence opened doors, breaking down barriers that centuries of neglect had built. Their visit sparked new conversations and inspired local initiatives, tangible steps toward the inclusive galaxy Tala envisioned. Yet, not all encounters were hopeful. In the militarized outpost of Zarin, a faction of warlords viewed Tala's reforms as a threat to their autonomy and profits. They challenged her authority openly, staging demonstrations and covert sabotage aimed at destabilizing her administration. The shadow of dissent loomed large, forcing Tala and Kale to navigate a labyrinth of political intrigue, espionage, and fragile alliances. The delicate balance between firmness and diplomacy was tested repeatedly, each crisis a crucible that refined their leadership and deepened their bond. Amid these external challenges, Tala faced internal struggles as well. The legacy of rejection left scars that sometimes surfaced in moments of doubt and vulnerability. The weight of expectation pressed heavily, and the isolation that accompanied leadership was profound. Yet Kale's steady presence was a source of comfort and strength. In quiet moments away from the public eye, they shared vulnerabilities, hopes, and dreams. Their partnership transcended traditional roles, embodying equality, mutual respect, and unwavering support. Together, they began to reshape not only policies but perceptions. Tala's presence on the galactic stage challenged long-held biases, inspiring others to embrace difference and strength in all forms. Kale's journey from mechanic to ambassador symbolized the power of perseverance and the importance of diverse voices in governance. Their story became a beacon of possibility, a reminder that change, no matter how daunting, was within reach when courage met conviction. The galaxy watched as this new dawn unfolded, a dawn forged not just by crowns and decrees, but by the hearts and hands of those who dared to dream beyond limits. Tala and Kale stood at the forefront of that transformation, ready to lead a future where rejection gave way to acceptance, and where every being's greatness was celebrated in its unique brilliance. Chapter 4. The Crown's True Weight. The galaxy had changed, yet the true test of leadership was only beginning. Tala's ascension from outcast to queen was a beacon that pierced the long shadows of prejudice and tradition, but ruling a fractured alliance demanded far more than ceremony and vision. As the days bled into weeks and months, Tala quickly discovered that the crown she bore was not merely a symbol of triumph, but a heavy mantle laden with responsibility, sacrifice, and the relentless pressure of expectation. The glittering halls of Solara Prime, which once echoed with cheers, now hummed with the complex symphony of political machinations, fragile alliances, and the simmering unrest that lurked beneath the polished surface of interstellar diplomacy. Her first challenge as queen was a crisis that threatened the very fabric of the Galactic Alliance. A sudden uprising erupted on Krythos, a mineral-rich world in the Outer Rim whose inhabitants had long suffered under exploitative corporate regimes and neglectful governance. The rebellion was swift and fierce, fueled by desperation and a burning desire for autonomy. Mining facilities were seized, supply routes cut, and communication blackouts plunged entire sectors into chaos. The rebellion's leaders demanded radical reforms and equitable resource distribution demands that struck at the heart of the entrenched powers who had profited from Krythos' turmoil. Tala knew this was not merely a political crisis, but a crucible for her leadership and her vision for the galaxy. The rebellion was a symptom of systemic failure, a call for justice from those who had been marginalized and silenced for too long. She assembled a council of advisors that reflected the Alliance's newfound diversity, including representatives from frontier worlds, former rebels, and respected diplomats. Among them, Kale's insights proved invaluable. His intimate knowledge of Outer Rim struggles and his ability to empathize with the oppressed forged bridges where suspicion had hardened into hatred. Deploying a mix of diplomacy, targeted economic aid, and carefully calibrated military presence, Tala and her council negotiated with the rebel leaders. These talks were fraught with tension. Years of mistrust could not be unraveled in mere days. Yet, Tala's willingness to listen, to acknowledge past wrongs, and to champion equitable policies won cautious respect. The peace treaty that emerged was a landmark agreement. Krythos would gain greater autonomy, mining profits would be fairly shared, and a joint oversight committee would ensure transparency and justice. This victory was not just political. It was a validation of Tala's belief that strength tempered by compassion could heal even the deepest wounds. However, this success also ignited fierce backlash from powerful corporate factions and conservative members of the council who saw Tala's reforms as dangerous precedents threatening their influence. Behind closed doors, whispers of conspiracy and betrayal circulated. Tala found herself navigating a labyrinth of intrigue and sabotage, her every move scrutinized, her resolve tested. Attempts were made to undermine her authority through misinformation campaigns and covert alliances designed to fracture the new unity she sought to build. Despite these pressures, Tala remained unwavering. She drew strength from the diverse coalition she had forged, from the unwavering support of Kale, and from the countless individuals across the galaxy who dared to hope for a better future. Her leadership evolved beyond traditional command. It became a movement and embodiment of resilience, inclusivity, and transformative power. She championed education reforms, technological sharing agreements, and cultural exchanges that celebrated the galaxy's rich tapestry of species and traditions. These initiatives fostered a renewed sense of identity and purpose among the Alliance's members, knitting together disparate worlds into a more cohesive whole. Amid the political storms, Tala and Kale's partnership deepened into a profound bond of trust and love. Their shared trials forged an unbreakable connection, a sanctuary amid the chaos of governance. In private moments, they found solace in each other's presence, conversations that wove together dreams, fears, and the quiet strength that sustained them both. Their relationship transcended the boundaries of power and politics, embodying the very ideals Tala sought to instill throughout the galaxy: equality, respect, and unwavering support. As the years passed, Tala's reign transformed the Galactic Alliance into a beacon of hope and progress. Worlds once divided by suspicion and strife now collaborated on ventures spanning scientific discovery, environmental restoration, and cultural renaissance. The Alliance's fleet evolved from a tool of dominance into a force for protection and exploration, reflecting the values of unity and stewardship. Tala's legacy was not merely that of a queen who defied expectations, but of a leader who reshaped the destiny of countless lives. Yet, even in triumph, the crown's weight remained. Tala faced personal sacrifices, time away from her homeworld and family, the constant scrutiny of public life, and the burden of decisions that affected millions. The loneliness of command was a constant companion, tempered only by the knowledge that her journey had inspired others to rise beyond their own limitations. Her story became a legend, told across star systems as a testament to the power of courage, love, and unyielding belief in one's worth. On the eve of the 10th anniversary of her coronation, Tala stood once more beneath the vast expanse of stars visible from the Citadel's highest tower. Beside her, Kale's hand found hers, a silent vow of partnership and hope. Together, they looked toward the horizon, a galaxy transformed, yet still full of promise and challenge. The future was theirs to shape, a testament to the truth that greatness could never be confined by size, shape, or expectation, but was born in the hearts of those brave enough to claim it. The years that followed Tala's coronation were a tumultuous symphony of triumph and trial. Her reign, initially greeted with hope and curiosity, soon revealed the immense complexity of governing a galaxy scarred by centuries of division and distrust. Every victory came tethered to a cost. Every reform challenged deep-rooted power structures, forcing Tala and Kale to navigate a labyrinth of politics, personal sacrifice, and moral dilemmas. The Krythos uprising had been a defining moment, but it was only the beginning. Worlds with their own unique grievances, be it economic exploitation, cultural erasure, or political marginalization, sought Tala's attention and intervention. She traveled extensively, often accompanied by Kale, whose practical insights and unwavering loyalty made him not only a trusted advisor, but a beloved figure across the Outer Rim. The duo's presence on distant worlds was a beacon of hope to many, and a warning to those who clung to the old order that change was inevitable. Yet, even as Tala's reforms transformed the Alliance's structure, she faced growing resistance. The corporate conglomerates that had once profited immensely from unchecked resource extraction now mounted coordinated campaigns against her. Shadowy factions within the council plotted to curtail her influence, spreading misinformation that painted her as a radical destabilizer. At times, the weight of these assaults felt crushing. Intelligence leaks, assassination attempts on key allies, and insidious sabotage tested the resilience of Tala's leadership and the security of those she held dear. Through it all, Tala remained unyielding. She drew strength from her heritage, the stories of Varelian giants who had faced impossible odds, and from the quiet moments of support shared with Kale. Their partnership transcended the conventional roles of ruler and consort. They were equals bound by shared vision and mutual respect. In their private sanctuary aboard the Sovereign Dawn, they found respite from the ceaseless demands of rule. There, Tala could shed the queenly armor and simply be a woman loved fiercely and unconditionally. One evening, as they gazed together at the swirling nebulae beyond their viewport, Tala spoke of her journey, not just the victories, but the scars carried silently beneath her regal bearing. For so long, I was defined by what others feared: my size, my strength, my difference. Now, I am defined by what I choose to become. Kale's fingers intertwined with hers. You have become more than a queen. You are a symbol, proof that what makes us different also makes us powerful. And you've taught me that strength isn't just muscle and stature, it's heart and conviction. Their love, forged in the crucible of adversity, became an unshakable foundation for the new galaxy they were building together. Politically, Tala's crowning achievement came in the establishment of the Galactic Concord, a comprehensive treaty that codified the rights of all species, ensured equitable resource distribution, and enshrined protections for minority cultures. It was a monumental step toward healing the fractures that had long threatened to rend the Alliance apart. The Concord signing was met with unprecedented fanfare, and Tala's speech that day resonated across star systems. We stand not as conquerors or subjects, but as guardians of a galaxy where every voice matters, every culture thrives, and every life is valued. Our differences are not divisions, but the threads that weave the vibrant tapestry of our shared destiny. Yet Tala never forgot the personal cost of her journey. She mourned the families she could not see often, the quiet sacrifices of friendships strained by duty, and the loneliness that accompanied command. Still, with Kale beside her, she faced each day with renewed purpose, knowing that together they had rewritten what it meant to lead. In time, Tala's story became legend, a beacon for those once cast aside, a testament to the power of resilience and the unbreakable spirit that refused to be diminished by fear or prejudice. She was not merely a queen crowned by circumstance, but a queen chosen by courage, love, and an unyielding belief in the worth of every soul. On the 10th anniversary of her coronation, a grand celebration illuminated the skies of Solara Prime. Worlds from every corner of the Alliance sent emissaries bearing gifts, songs, and stories celebrating the decade of peace and progress Tala's reign had ushered in. Tala and Kale stood side by side on the balcony overlooking the throng, their silhouettes framed by the shimmering auroras that danced across the horizon. Kale whispered, "Look at what we've built, what you've built." Tala smiled, eyes shining with tears of gratitude and hope. It was never just me. It was all of us who dared to believe in something greater. The galaxy stretched before them, vast and endless, a canvas still being painted with the brushstrokes of their legacy. Tala's journey from a woman rejected 17 times for being too big to a queen loved for being perfect in her own magnificent way was a story not just of survival, but of transformation. It was a story that whispered across stars and hearts alike that greatness is not defined by others' limits, but by the courage to embrace oneself fully and to lead with love. And so, beneath the tapestry of stars that had once mocked her, Tala and Kale stepped forward ready to face whatever the future held, together, unshakable and infinite.